All right. I'll share my screen. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Dawn. I'm gonna be leading this training today. I'm the program coordinator for Keep Durham Beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody that has joined us. We are kind of still in the early phases of this program, and we really appreciate you joining us for this training. So a little bit about Keep Durham Beautiful before we get started. We're going to do a little mini quiz. Feel free to put your answers in the chat. Question number 1, when was Keep Durham Beautiful founded? I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to put some answers in. And maybe Tanya can read the answers out as they come in.
(2002) is one answer.
Very close.
2019, 2000.
Okay. Just love these. All right, so correct answer is 2004.
1980 was another guess.
1980, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Would have been older than me. So next question is a pretty important one. What are the 3 main focus areas of Keep Durham Beautiful? And I guess I should mention that Keep Durham Beautiful is an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. Go ahead and drop your guesses in the chat.
We've got litter cleanup, tree planting, and community gardens. Is KDB part of City of Durham?
Got some good answers. So our 3 main focus areas are litter prevention, community greening, and waste reduction. All or most of our programming falls under those 3 categories. And those categories are set by the Keep America Beautiful Foundation. So here is a fun multi-choice question. What is Keep Durham Beautiful's mission statement? And this is going to be important for points that we make later on.
Two choices for B, 3 choices. Oh, lots of choices for B.
Oh, maybe some people have been on our website. So yes, the correct answer is B, to engage and inspire individuals to take greater responsibility for their community environment. We don't want to be the ones doing the work for people. We want people to get engaged themselves to take responsibility. As someone asked before in the chat, true or false, Keep Durham Beautiful is closely partnered with the City of Durham. They help support our programs and provide funding and office space.
We've got a true and a couple trues.
All right, yeah, it's a pretty easy one. It's very true. We also partner with Durham County. We're very grateful for their support. And lastly, can anyone name 3 types of volunteer opportunities that KDB offers? Somebody may have answered that already, so you can just copy their answer.
Litter leader.
Yes. There are a few different ways that the community can get involved with us in Durham.
Yeah, we've got an answer. Adopt a street. Lots of litter cleanups.
Awesome.
Tree planting, community gardens, cleanups.
Exactly. We do litter cleanups, tree plantings. We've had some waste sorting events, especially at the Durham Central Park. We help plant, maintain, and I guess like organize community and pollinator gardens. We partner with a lot of local community gardens to help get them volunteers and resources. All right, thank you guys for playing. I hope you know a little bit more about Keep Durham Beautiful now. So let's get started with the Litter Leaders program. So what is a litter leader? Litter leaders are volunteers committed to litter prevention in Durham that are willing to join us in leading volunteers in cleanup efforts. So one of the things that we have noticed is that people are very eager to join a litter pickup, but it is a little bit harder to find people to lead or plan litter pickups. So this program is partly to help us with that piece of the puzzle. So we need litter leaders because, largely because Keep Durham Beautiful has a very small staff. If you missed the introduction from the beginning, Keep Durham Beautiful consists of myself, Tanya, our executive director, and currently Princess, who is a temporary AmeriCorps service member. It has often been smaller, like just Tanya herself. I'm a recent addition. I just started in November. And then we tend to have 1 or 2 AmeriCorps service members that serve with us for 11 months every year. So when you think about the scope of the projects that we do in Durham, just in the past 6 months from January to July, 2,600 volunteers have picked up almost 40,000 pounds of trash in 165 events, which is roughly 20 to 30 pickup events every month. And that is excluding like people that have already adopted streets in Durham that do their own cleanups on their own time. This is just events that Keep Durham Beautiful has either helped to organize or volunteers that help out like with organizing things on their own time. So having volunteer leaders that can meet groups really helps us, and it helps increase our capacity, because we get requests all the time from corporate groups, faith groups, scouting groups, school groups that are really interested in having a work day or a service project through Keep Durham Beautiful, and we really need the help to help lead those groups. Also, there's a lot of litter in Durham. Anyone that lives in Durham probably knows that. So we can't pick it all up ourselves. And we also don't necessarily know where all of it is. So another way litter leaders can help is by just letting us know where litter needs to be picked up. And so the piece from our mission statement, we want to empower people to care for their communities themselves. We don't want to come in and tell people what they need to do and how they need to do it. We want to empower them to do it on their own. So when are litter leaders needed? Pretty much year round, as I already mentioned, but there are a few times of year that we have the highest need, like service days, Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service and 9/11 Day of Service. We do 2 big pushes a year during Creek Week, which is the third week in March, and that mainly focuses on creek and river cleanups, although it can be any cleanup. And then again in Big Sweep, which is coming up. Any litter pickup that happens during the month of October counts towards Big Sweep. And those are usually the 2 times of year that we get the most events. And they can be either established groups that have a location that they take care of regularly, or they can be community groups that want to just get involved. There's lots of ways to participate in that. And then Earth Month has recently been a really big month for us. Lots of corporate groups and school groups wanting to get their service projects in. And so what will you be able to do after this training? We would love for litter leaders to participate by leading groups of volunteers or planning their own cleanups, and also sharing the mission of Keep Durham Beautiful, sharing our tool lending library, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, and helping to promote Keep Durham Beautiful and what we do with your community networks. You're also a really great way for community members and residents to learn about Keep Durham Beautiful and how they can get involved in litter cleanups in Durham. Requirements to be a litter leader. So we have worked out a little bit of a process to participate. This is, so the Litter Leaders program started, the idea came up in about 2019. So we're still in the early phases of working out how we want this program to go. But right now we send out a letter or an email about once a month with a form outlining upcoming volunteer leadership opportunities. This is also something that you can create yourself. We'll go over that a little bit more later. Sign up for any opportunities that you're able to attend. Generally, like either 1 or 2 leaders can come to an event. You can also bring a friend with you or invite family members, like someone that's interested in helping out. And then just communicating with the Keep Durham Beautiful staff for details and to arrange the supply pickup. Requirements to come to one training, either like this or as a shadow, like shadowing a Keep Durham Beautiful staff at an event per year. Volunteering for at least 6 hours throughout the year. Most cleanup events are generally about 2 hours, so that's about 3 cleanup events per year, and that's just the minimum. You can do as much as you like outside of that. And then really importantly, making sure to turn in supplies, results, and the sign-in waiver for the events that you lead. So the benefits of being a litter leader, obviously keeping your community clean and free from litter. The great feeling of knowing that you've done something good for your community. Dopamine is a really powerful thing. I think one of the most important benefits is for younger people, you can earn volunteer hours for school. You have something to put on your resume. You can hone your leadership skills. It looks really great on a college application, like having any sort of leadership volunteer position. And then making new friends and strengthening your community bonds. And then we're also working on prizes and incentives for people that complete the training, as including the shadowing and the yearly requirements. So let's get into the how-to. There are 5 simple steps. Prepare for your event, collect the litter, dispose of it correctly, share your cleanup, and record your results. So for preparing, generally, as I said, we'll send you a list of events. These are usually going to be groups that have reached out to us hoping to set up a service project. As often as we can, we do like to attend those. But as I mentioned, we're a small staff. We don't always have the time to attend every event as much as we would like to. Otherwise, we would be working every single weekend. Nobody likes working every single weekend. So you can choose an event that we offer, or if you really want to, you can pick a location of your own and have a cleanup. We have a couple of volunteers that regularly host their own pickups and just invite their friends and then send us the reports afterwards. After you pick a project, we ask for you to coordinate with the group contact that we've been organizing with so that they know that you're going to be their point of contact for the event. Thirdly, becoming familiar with your project site. So this is important because if you're going to lead, you need to know the area and be prepared. So we sometimes ask that you do a site visit, although in some cases at the most frequent sites, we do have a thorough description of particularities of the site. That is going to be in the Google Drive, the Google folder that we're going to share with you a little bit later. But becoming familiar with your project site beforehand, where bathrooms are, picking a good spot to pile bags, which we'll talk about a little bit later, researching the watershed that it's located in. This is a really important educational piece for when we're talking to volunteers about the importance of picking up litter and keeping a clean environment. And then collecting the supplies is the last step of the preparation. Usually you will contact us to make an appointment to pick up the supplies. We pack everything up for you. If you can't make it during office hours, which we totally understand, we do have a drop box outside the building. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about this later to walk you guys through how to use the Find Your Watershed map. So if for those of you that have never heard of this term before, a watershed is essentially an area through which water flows to a specific water body. So all of the streams, creeks, and rivers in a certain area flow to a larger body of water. The land around that area is called the watershed. In Durham, most of our stormwater flows to Falls Lake or Jordan Lake. Falls Lake is the drinking water for Raleigh. Jordan Lake is the drinking water for Cary. So all of the trash and litter that gets swept off of the streets and into storm drains during a rain event is making its way into those bodies of water that are going to be drinking water for people. The Durham watershed is actually, the Durham drinking water source is Lake Mickey, which is further to the north around the Spruce Pine Lodge, if anyone has ever been out there. And we do have more information on this a little bit later. There's a really great interactive map that you can use to find the watershed area for where your litter pickup is going to be. So why are we picking up litter? This is something that we try to drive home for our volunteers at an event, because some people don't think a lot about it, but as I mentioned before, stormwater is washing litter out of the streets during a rain event into storm drains, into creeks and streams, where it builds up and pollutes, which is bad for people. It's bad for animals because animals can get entangled or they can ingest it and die. Cost-wise, it's really expensive. And actually, I recently learned that the money, like the funding for keeping up roads and streets, the money that they spend like for staffing to pick up litter is taken out of funding for things like road upkeep. So it's the same funding pool. So the more money that they have to spend on picking up litter, the less money they have to spend on
Yes.
Are we okay? The less money we have to spend on road and bridge renovation,
Yeah. Is there
or
anything
filling
on here?
potholes. Somebody is not on mute, just letting you know. I'm not sure who that is. So it's a very costly thing. And then also
Yeah,
litter,
sure. Otherwise, 12 is. I'll plan on 12.
litter is unattractive. It reduces home values by around
okay.
7%. Tanya, do you think you could hit
Sure,
the
I'm
mute
ready when-
everyone button?
All right. It's Adisa.
Sorry, I accidentally muted you, Dawn. You'll have to unmute yourself. I think we're good. Thanks.
Okay. And I don't think I have to spend too much time explaining to the people here why we want to pick up litter. So collect with what? These are the supplies that Keep Durham Beautiful is going to supply to people at an event. And these are the supplies that we bring with us anytime we help organize an event. These are also supplies that we loan out through our tool lending library program. So these are things that are available to anybody at any time that they want to perform a litter pickup. Work gloves, the super fashionable bright yellow high-vis safety vests, litter grabbers, trash bags, a clipboard with the sign-in waiver and result sheet, and a first aid kit. So to borrow these supplies, as I said, we have a tool lending library on our website. If you want to plan something on your own, that's probably the best way to do it. because you can pick a day and a time to come and pick it up, and also let us know specifically how many of these supplies that you need. If it's for a specific event that you have volunteered to lead, you can just reach out to us to set up a time to pick up the supplies. And then this is more for, say, if there's volunteers at an event that you lead that are interested in doing this on their own time, they can actually purchase litter supply packets through our website that include what you see in the picture, the vest, gloves, and litter grabbers. And we have various sizes of those, like from individual to a large group for like a company. And that can be found on our website. So get into the nitty-gritty of actually leading a group. So you've got your supplies, you've done your research, the day has come and it's time to meet your group. I like to arrive at least 15 minutes before we get started because that helps me to get comfortable with the space, to set up, have everything ready for the participants when they start to come in. Have the sign-in sheet ready, and as people arrive, have them sign in. After everybody is present, you can give your introduction and instructions, which we actually have handouts with really great wording on it. If, like me, you're not super great at public speaking, and it's nice to have something that you can look at beforehand to help you figure out what you're going to say. Pass out your supplies. This is important, taking a group photo before you start work, because if anyone's ever been to a volunteer event before, you know, sometimes people will leave at different times, and it's really great to get a picture at the start. That way you can capture everybody. And then after you have given the instructions and sent everybody out, circulate. Like, you can join in if you're able to, just making sure that everybody is staying busy, having a good time, solving any problems. And then afterwards, letting people know probably about 15 to 10 minutes before the end time to come back to the start and bring all their trash. And then you can take a final picture with your giant pile of litter and your happy volunteers. So that gets us into safety, especially in the summertime. Well, safety is always paramount, but especially in the summertime because of things like poison ivy and fire ants. This is another reason why it's good to be familiar with the area that you're having your litter pickup in, so that you're aware of things like traffic, where the poison ivy is. We do have resources for helping to identify that if you aren't familiar with it. Knowing where running water is. Sometimes with creeks, there are ledges, like you want to be aware of those things for safety. If you find something that is like big and sharp, like a piece of metal, don't just put that loose in a trash bag, because it can pierce the bag and harm a person. For other sharp things, because you will inevitably find things like needles, what we suggest, if you're not comfortable touching it, you don't have to. But what I personally have found works is to use your grabber to pick up the needle and put it in a bottle, like a plastic bottle, like you'll probably find lots of those on a pickup, and then cap it and put that in the trash. We don't want volunteers or volunteer leaders to put themselves into situations that they're uncomfortable with. So just use your judgment. If something seems off, then you don't have to go through with that. Calling 911, it's unlikely that there are many events that would require that, but just know that it's an option. Like, we have had people find firearms at litter pickups, something like that. You might want to call 911 for, just so that they could safely deal with that. As with any outdoor event, staying hydrated, wearing appropriate clothing, especially during the summer. I really like to wear long pants and sleeves, even if it's really hot, because you never know when you might have to go into some scrubby thickets to get garbage, and closed-toed shoes are always a good thing. If it starts to storm or rain really hard, lightning and thunder, have everybody stop work and find shelter. And then we usually recommend people to bring a hat and sunscreen. we do have some sunscreen and bug spray that we can provide for people. And then just remembering that when you're leading a litter cleanup as an ambassador of Keep Durham Beautiful, you're very visible, and you're also an ambassador of the city of Durham and of whatever your organization is, or the organization of the group that you're working with, as well as Keep Durham Beautiful. So we're gonna talk a little bit about sorting the trash that you're picking up. So this is a picture of pretty common items that you're gonna find. So what about this plastic bag here? Do we think that that's something that would go into recycling or something that would go into trash? You guys are welcome to unmute and answer or put in the chat.
We have a comment, plastic bag recycling.
So there's kind of a multi-part question or multi-part answer for that. So in your own home, if you have clean, dry plastic film, like plastic bags from the grocery store or bread bags, you can collect those and recycle them at the store, like at the, at Harris Teeter, or there are lots of places that collect plastic bags. However, they are not recyclable in like city recycling bins. We don't include them in recycling for these events. So if you find a plastic bag, unfortunately, it has to go into the trash. And this is also just a plug for, please do not put plastic bags in your recycling bin, because they can tangle up the machines that do the sorting at recycling centers. They can cause them to shut down, lose productivity, lose lots of money. It's really, really bad to put your plastic bags in the recycling bin. So how about this glass bottle? This is like kind of a trick question. So this kind of mucky looking dirty glass bottle here.
Is that a not recyclable because it's dirty?
That is correct. So especially for creek cleanups, you'll find a lot of things that have sediment buildup, or that are like broken, crushed up, or really dirty. In general, for recycling that we're collecting, we want it to be as clean as possible. So something like that has like a lot of dirt and grime is not going to, like, it's probably just going to end up in the landfill anyways if you send it to a recycling center. So we would just put that in the trash. What about these cups and straws here on the top? Would that be trash or recycling?
Trash.
Yes, that is trash. Straws and plastic cups are not recyclable in not mainstream recycling, but I can't think of the term. What about the masks and gloves, which I'm sure you've seen a lot of recently in the last couple of years?
See, trash is the comment here.
Yes, that would be trash. An interesting comment for bottles, like this plastic bottle. So I am sure most of you would want to put that in the recycling, which is correct. Personally, if there's liquid in a bottle, I like to open the bottle and pour it out, especially if it's obvious, like here, that it's clear liquid, it's most likely water. Although you can find really gross things like urine or tobacco spit in bottles. Do not feel obligated to open and pour that out, because it's just not a pleasant experience. So you can just chuck that into a trash bag. What about the can down here? This is another sort of trick question.
Got trash or recycle?
Yes, the answer is both. So in this condition, like in the picture, that's fine to go into the recycling. Unfortunately, a lot of the time you will find cans that have been shredded either by a mower or that have a bunch of dirt built up in them, or they're just like crushed beyond all recognition. And unfortunately, once again, those are probably just going to end up in the landfill. Also, if it's shredded, it can be kind of dangerous. So it's best to just put that in the trash. So, and if I did not mention before, we do separate trash and recycling at our events, and we use black bags to collect trash and white bags to collect recycling, or clear bags, depending on what we have. And then this is just for your edification. These are things that are collected in Durham for recycling versus things that go to the landfill. So after the event, after you have all your trash, you've got it all piled up, what is going to happen to it after that? This is where we're really glad for our partnership with the city and county, because they actually will pick up the trash from our litter cleanups. The neighborhood improvement services, if it's in the city limits, and then the county services if it's outside of the city. So picking a location that is easy for those folks to pick up the trash is really key. Picking somewhere that's visible, that they can identify easily and quickly, and also someplace that can be accessed by a truck with a grapple. So usually, especially if it's large amounts, they literally have a truck that has a giant arm that comes down and picks up the trash to put into the truck. So it's really important to make sure that you pick a spot that's open, that doesn't have overhanging power lines or trees. And also making sure that you separate the piles of black trash bags, piles of white recycling bags, and piles of bulky unbaggable items like tires and these other things that you see here in the picture. And then the last piece of the puzzle is making sure to let Keep Durham Beautiful staff know where to find your trash pile. So giving us as specific of instructions as you can on where to find that, so that we can let the people collecting it know where to find it. And so after that, so we do really want for litter leaders to help spread the word about Keep Durham Beautiful, what we do, our tool lending program, and how easy it is to pick up litter and have that taken care of. So during and after an event, we would really love for you to take pictures. You can send them to us. If you have social media and you're comfortable sharing it on that, you can tag Keep Durham Beautiful on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Find out if the group you're leading has social media you can tag. And then we do try to use the hashtag Keep Durham Beautiful on our posts, and then resharing Keep Durham Beautiful posts is also really helpful. And we have two different ways to report the results of a litter pickup. As I mentioned, we'll send you with a sign-in sheet for the volunteers, as well as a results card. And you can either fill out that results card and hand it in with the sign-in sheet, or we also have a really handy form on our website that you can use. Those tend to be used more by people that are doing their own organized cleanups that they have done on their own. And then making sure that we get those numbers is really, really important, because it's how I know, like, for example, the numbers that I gave you earlier about 2,600 volunteers in the last 6 months, like those numbers are how we tell our story, and they're how we tell our impact. And then generally, so we count the number of bags. We also keep track of like what kinds of bulky items that you're finding. And generally, when you're weighing your results, we just kind of estimate about 20 pounds per bag of trash or recycling. And take pictures, take lots of pictures. It's really great to create goodwill and memories for yourself and your volunteers. Volunteer organizations and corporations and scout groups really like to have pictures to share, to show their good work. And then pictures are really useful for us. For example, all of the pictures used in these slides were pictures taken at volunteer events. So they're really, really useful for us to tell the story of Keep Durham Beautiful and the work that we do. We also use them in things like our annual report, in grant applications and reporting. And then they're also really useful assets for event and program promotion, like this program. And part of the waiver that we have everyone sign includes granting permission to take photos, but just make sure to ask people if it's okay to take their picture. And like if they are not okay with that, then don't take their picture. Okay, so at this point, we can kind of take some questions about what kind of concerns you have, any lingering questions that you might have. After this is over, we will send you a link with this resources folder on Google Drive, and then you can get started either organizing your own cleanups or picking cleanups that we've already organized to help lead. And then actually what I would suggest if you are ready is to pick something that you can shadow a Keep Durham Beautiful staff at, because that'll give you a little bit more confidence and help you feel more prepared. Tanya, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say I could read off some of the questions that we had in the chat
Sure.
that might be, if not everybody was watching the chat, they might be helpful. And I just am pasting the Keep Durham Beautiful events page here. And a good way to keep up with events that we have going on is to follow us on social media and actually select to get to see the posts first. I think at least on Facebook, because sometimes they get buried or don't show up in your feed if you don't select that. So some of the questions, there was a question, is there an age limit for volunteers? And no, we welcome all age volunteers. We do require that youth under 16 are accompanied by a guardian. It doesn't have to be a parent, but somebody who's responsible for them. And we have a waiver for that age group. And let's see what other questions. How soon will the litter be picked up after a cleanup? And usually it's the next business day at the latest. Sometimes if it's on a weekday or if it's on a Saturday, it could be that afternoon, especially if we have the location in advance and we're able to coordinate that. And there was a question about items like batteries and TVs and other bulky items. And as Dawn mentioned, you can just put all of that in a pile next to the pile of trash bags and the pile of recycle bags. And we do try to count the number of tires because that is kind of a special item that does get recycled through the city waste reduction facility. And every now and then we've hosted a tire recycling drive, which provides an opportunity for people to bring larger numbers of tires and even tires on rims. And so people tend to collect tires sometimes, like if they change them themselves, and then they collect water and breed mosquitoes. And it's really hard for individuals to get rid of them. And so this is a great opportunity to get those out of the backyard. So hopefully we'll have another one of those in the next year. So let's see. I think those are most of the questions that came up in the chat. Does anybody else want to unmute and share a question? Oh, let's see. There was a question, how do I find the waiver? I think you're referring to the waiver for the youth. We will make sure that that's in the Google Drive that we share with you all. Right now we have I don't think either of our waivers are on our website, but we'll make sure that they're both in our Google Drive. We always provide the waivers when we give a litter prevention kit or a litter pickup kit to the volunteer coordinator. We always have the clipboard with the waivers on it.
Awesome. And I did want to mention one thing that is in the resources folder is a contact list So if you're able, if you are interested in participating in the program, if you could add your name, email, and phone number, and as well as like general areas that you personally have liked to clean up or areas that you would feel comfortable, because that's really useful for us to know. Because we want, we don't want you to have to drive all the way to North Durham if you live in South Durham to participate in a litter pickup.
Hey, Don, this is Greg. I have a question.
Hi, sure.
Volunteers are not allowed, what areas in Durham are volunteers are not allowed to do cleanups in? Like, for example, the Durham Freeway, there are certain sections that are littered with trash. Are we not allowed to clean that particular stretch of the highway? Is that more like for the city because of due to safety reasons? Or do we all just focus on like neighborhoods and ponds and public parks and stuff like that?
We do tend to focus more on those latter things. Tanya may be able to speak a little more to whether or not we're quote unquote allowed to do pickups there. It can be a little bit more dangerous to have like groups of volunteers do pickups along busy roadsides along the interstate. And yes, I do agree with you, like that it seems like that is where the majority of the litter piles up. Tanya, do you know, like, I'm assuming that.
Yeah, I actually don't have an answer to that. That's a good question. Nadi has an answer to that question. Nadi?
Well, I don't have an answer per se, but I just have used my resources to find out. So there is a list, and I think for busy highways, there are actually some people from DOT who contract with the city of Durham, and those places, it's just about finding the right person to report where it is. So I live close to NCCU and have reported a stretch of Highway 55. And I did it through, I forget the guy who usually helps to coordinate like the trash. Is it Daryl Hedgepeth?
So yeah, it really does vary on who's responsible, but Daryl Hedgepeth is the manager of the City of Durham Neighborhood Improvement Services Impact Team, and we are so thankful for the work that they do because they pick up the vast majority of the litter that our volunteers collect.
Right.
And they're very, very responsive.
Yeah. And he just was a resource. So he didn't pick it up, but he said, hey, I have this contact who works with DOT. I use Durham One Call a lot too. And he got me in touch with that person, and it was like maybe 2 or 3 days, so that it goes on. There is some list that they keep when people report it, and I guess there's just like a revolving, they go to different parts of the city at different times. So I wish I had a more precise answer, but I did find out that usually with like cleanups like that, there's some contractual agreement or partnership with Department of Transportation, I think, because of those busy roadways.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think the take-home message from what you're saying is that it is a good idea to report the litter that you see. And if it is on a city, if you happen to know if it's on a city maintained street, calling Durham One Call, and that number is in the chat, and it's a great number to know for just about any concern or question you have. They'll direct you to an appropriate city office. And then if you know that the street is outside of city limits or is a city is a county maintained street, which tends to be the numbered streets, like 147 or 55 or 54, or 15501, those are state maintained, and the Durham County Office of NCDOT would be the place to report those concerns. And you can search for it, just Durham County NCDOT, but I also put the link there in the chat. But as far as other locations, so I don't know if it's legal for an individual to be on a like Durham Freeway picking up litter. I just don't know that answer, and I will find out. But generally, I would say if it's either public property, like city-owned property, like a park, or if you have permission from the property owner, then you can pick up litter anywhere that you personally feel safe. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Would anyone be interested in seeing the watershed map and how to do a search on that? We
Yes.
have about 15 minutes, 13 minutes left. I can stop sharing now if Tanya wants to start.
Sure. Let me get to the right page. Okay. Okay. So this is the Litter Leaders volunteer documents and resources. So we'll be sending you a link to this and you'll have access to all of these documents here. I think Dawn mentioned the litter cleanup site information sheets, and I guess I'll just go through and sort of show you some of what's here. And this is where you could, these are some of our most common sites that we go to. And so you could learn more about that site by clicking on here. So Longmeadow Park was one that I thought I would show you how to look up these. This is a place where we often come with volunteers. Oh, this one is not as robust. Some of them are more robust. Let me see if I can go back to a different one. Trying to think of one that is well documented. Beaver Marsh Preserve. Uh-oh, this one's taking a few moments. Oh, let's see. Okay, so this one, it has, so it's just got the name and the address, and then it'll tell you it'll have some kind of map, and then it'll have some information about like where to park, where to find the litter, any concerns. So sometimes homeless people sleep on the picnic table and it's not much of a problem. You know, it's just good to be aware of some things like that before you go to a site. So we'd also love your help if you are in charge of a litter cleanup at one of these sites. If we have a map, if we have one of these information sheets and you want to add to it, that would be great. Or if we don't have one and you want to create one, that would also be wonderful. Let's see here. So let's see if I can go back and I'll show you the watershed. So within this document, there is Litter Leaders Durham Watersheds. And so once we assign you a location, or if you're picking one on your own to organize a group cleanup, then if you want to learn about the watershed, which is, and we have a script in that Litter Leaders folder too, where you can sort of, you know, you don't have to follow it word by word, but it can be really helpful to just help you know how to like welcome the volunteers, what to say about Keep Durham Beautiful and why we're doing this, and just make it a little bit more meaningful. And part of the way to make it meaningful is to talk about why it matters and the flow of anything that is on this in the surface waters, how it flows downstream and eventually goes into our drinking water sources, and then also eventually makes its way to the ocean and contributes to pollution that harms aquatic life. So I noticed this map is just a hair wonky, but I think it still works, and we'll make sure those lines get improved. But these are the Durham watersheds. Basically along 147 here, where I'm drawing the cursor, that is the dividing line between the Cape Fear River Basin, which is south and west, and it's the Neuse River. It's the Neuse River Basin, right?
Yeah, Neuse River is down to the
Yeah.
south.
So okay. So and then sorry, I'm not sure why I forgot that. And then sort of east and north of Highway 147, all of that water flows this way towards the Neuse River Basin. So, but first it flows into Falls Lake and becomes the drinking water for Raleigh. And the runoff from everything south and west of 147 flows into Jordan Lake and becomes the drinking water for Cary. And Durham's drinking water, incidentally, comes from Lake Mickey, which is up here in the Bahama area. And I'm actually not positive which of these two watersheds. I think it's here. I think both of these reservoirs up here are like drinking water sources for Durham. So our drinking water is actually less exposed to urban areas than Raleigh's and Cary's are. So if you want to find out your watershed, you would just come up here to the search button, and I'm going to type in Longmeadow Park. And you can also put the address in. So I'm going to put that there, and then it finds it on the map. And then you'll probably want to scroll out a little bit just to make sure you know which color you're looking at. And that is in the green area. And so that watershed is, I'm not sure if it shows up here, but it is so then you can compare it over here on the left and see which one highlights.
I think it's the Ellerby Creek one, isn't it?
It is Ellerby Creek watershed, yes. So that's when I move my cursor over it, it highlights that one. And so you know that one is in the Ellerby Creek watershed. So sorry. Sorry, it's a little bit strange, but yeah. And when you highlight that watershed, if you scroll out far enough, it'll actually tell you right here as well. And if you want to learn even more about that watershed, if you go to the City of Durham's stormwater pages, it will tell you a little bit about the health of that watershed and what they might be doing to improve it. So the Ellerby Creek, well, or the health of the creek that flows through that watershed. So Ellerby Creek and Third Fork Creek are two of the creeks that the City of Durham has identified as having poorer water quality than meets the standards. And so they've been doing a lot of mitigation measures to reduce pesticides and contaminants, or sorry, not pesticides, but fertilizers and other things that come as runoff into the water, as well as litter, so that it can improve that water quality. And so they are required to report regularly to make sure that they're meeting the state standards. So that is one resource. Any questions about that? When you get, when we send you the link to that Litter Leaders Drive, we can, you know, I just encourage you to go click through everything and see what's there, and ask us questions about any of the resources that you might have questions about.
Yeah, and I think that I think all of you got an email from the Keep Durham Beautiful account with the link to this. So you can just send a message to that or to info@keepdurhambeautiful.org if you have questions. All right.
And
Any other? Oh, go ahead.
I'll also put the link in here to the drive. Yeah, let us know if you see anything that needs improvement as well.
All right, well, if there are not any other questions or comments, thank you guys so much for joining us. We really look forward to working with you in the future. And by the end of today, beginning of tomorrow, I'll send you that email with the resources in it. No, you're amazing, Sarah. Thank you. Bye, everybody.